Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty unique, actually, an
Hmm.
artistic experience that happens entirely, well, in the dark.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold concept, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
removing sight completely.
Totally audacious. So, our mission today is to explore why. Why darkness? And how does sound manage to take over everything?
Right. What's the thinking? It seems a creator had a few, well, interesting reasons.
Yeah, first off, just being tired of screens. I think we can all relate to that a bit.
Oh, absolutely. That constant visual input.
And then this experience at a concert,
Yeah.
just closing his eye.
And the sound changed.
Apparently, yeah, it became like clearer,
More.
three-dimensional, almost tangible.
Huh. It shows how much we rely on sight, maybe even when we don't need to.
Exactly. And the other thing was listening to a TV show.
Just listening. No picture.
Yeah, and finding the story was still totally there, maybe even richer,
How so?
because the small sounds, floorboard creaking, footsteps, they suddenly carried so much more weight, emotion even.
Ah, so the sound itself became the main storyteller in those moments.
Precisely. Which leads to this idea that maybe sight can actually sort of limit how we listen.
That's counterintuitive, isn't
Well,
it?
a bit, yeah. But maybe darkness opens up this huge mental space for imagination.
Creating more intimate experience, perhaps.
Right.
More internal.
Right. It forces you to engage differently.
Which brings us squarely to sound design.
Yeah.
In a show like this, it's not just important, it's everything.
You'd think the obvious choice would be just real sounds,
Right.
right? Recorded naturally.
That seems logical, yeah. But here's the twist. Sometimes that raw, real sound can actually feel less convincing.
Less real. How does that work?
Well, think about it. We're conditioned by movies, TV, radio.
Okay. We have these built-in expectations. Like, we know what a movie explosion sounds like.
Yes, exactly. Or horse hooves, or footsteps on gravel. There are these ingrained sound codes.
So a stylized sound, maybe even one made in a studio, might actually fit our expectations better.
Often, yes. It's about matching those narrative codes we've learned, not necessarily matching pure reality.
It's like aiming for something more real than real, in a way.
Precisely. The brain wants coherence with what it thinks it knows, not necessarily the absolute acoustic truth.
Fascinating. So how did they actually build this sound world for the show? What techniques did they use?
Well, it sounds like a mix of approaches. Sometimes they take a real sound and just boost it, enhance it a bit.
Give it more presence.
Other times they'd go full Foley artist, recreating sounds from scratch in the studio.
Right, the classic Foley stuff like using cornstarch for snow.
Exactly, that kind of thing. Or breaking celery for bone snaps or whatever works. It's an art form.
So it's not always about perfect realism then.
Not necessarily. The goal seems more about evocation, creating a feeling, a sensation, impact over accuracy sometimes.
Making you feel or understand something rather than just hearing a perfect copy.
Right. It's about what the sound does to the listener.
And there's more to it than just recording and Foley, isn't there? Something about tonal adjustment.
Yeah, think of it like tuning the sounds. They might subtly change the pitch or the note of a recorded sound effect
Why would they do that?
to make it blend better with everything else, especially the music, to create a sort of overall sonic harmony.
Okay, so ensuring all the sounds kind of fit together musically, even the non-musical ones.
Sort of, yeah. And speaking of music, they also use samplers in really creative ways.
Samplers, how does that fit in?
Well, imagine you record, say, cutlery clinking in a kitchen scene, just that everyday sound.
Okay.
With a sampler, you can then assign that clinking sound to different keys on a keyboard.
So you can play the cutlery sound like it's a musical instrument.
Exactly. You can create rhythms, textures. You turn ordinary noise into music, basically.
That's clever. Taking mundane sounds and giving them musical structure within the scene.
It really blurs the lines. And then, of course, there's spatialization. In the dark, that must be absolutely vital.
Oh, definitely. You need to know where things are happening, right?
And they achieve that using multiple speakers placed all around the audience.
Front, back, sides.
So the sound isn't just coming from one direction. It can move.
Yeah.
It can surround you.
Creating a proper 3D soundscape.
Yeah, that immersion must be intense. You're not just listening to a storm. You feel like you're in it.
We're in the middle of a crowd.
Right. And the darkness just amplifies that physical sensation, doesn't it?
Right.
Because your brain isn't getting any conflicting visual cues.
Total focus on the sound. They even offer an eye mask, I read.
Yeah, for people who want to guarantee absolute total darkness. No light bleed from exit signs or anything.
Maximum immersion.
That's the idea. Maximum sensory focus on hearing.
But, could that level of immersion become a bit much, maybe unsettling for some people? Claustrophobic?
That's a really good point. It's definitely a potential issue. There has to be a balance.
So how do they manage that?
Well, the eye mask being optional is part of it, isn't it? It gives you control. If it's too intense, you can take it off, little ambient light back in.
Oh, okay. Listener agency. That makes sense.
And music also plays a huge role in managing that balance, apparently. It's not just there for atmosphere.
So it's woven into the experience more deeply. How does that work?
It seems to be a mix. Some parts are composed, written music, but they're also bits of, like, subtle live improvisation. Maybe a piano playing live, discreetly.
Okay.
And all that is mixed with the pre-recorded soundscape we talked about.
And that pre-recorded stuff includes...
All sorts. Acoustic instruments, sure, but also synths, electronic sounds, and those sampled everyday noises that have been transformed.
ones turned into musical elements.
Exactly. The aim seems to be to really blur the lines. You might not always know if you're hearing music or a sound effect.
It just becomes one cohesive sonic world.
That seems to be the goal, yeah. It all serves the story and the sensation.
So wrapping this all up, the core idea, the really powerful thing here, is that taking away sight just massively ramps up our hearing.
It absolutely does. Listening becomes the primary driver. It shapes the narrative, the emotion, the feeling of being there.
Yeah, in a way that's just fundamentally different from visual media.
It really opens up different artistic pathways, challenging how we usually rank our senses, creating something genuinely new, I think.
It really does. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Beyond just this specific show, what if we, in our daily lives just consciously closed our eyes more often, even for a minute?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. How would that change how we perceive the sounds around us all the time? The ones we usually filter out.
Right. Could be a fascinating little experiment for anyone to try. Just listen.